The ground beneath you is trembling. The beast raises its mighty trunk into the air and lets out a blood-curdling bellow. It's 3 times your height, covered with shaggy brown hair, has legs the size of tree trunks and 2 enormous tusks protruding from its mouth. It's angry, and it's running at you. So what happens next? Well, you'll find out in a minute. First, let's review. So, this notion I have to feel confident before I do what matters to me. As we said in the last video, that's the granddaddy of all those wrong rules. It seems to make sense. It's easier to take action and do the things that are important to you if you already are feeling confident. But clinging tightly to this belief means you'll spend a lot of time, effort, and energy trying to control your feelings. Have you ever found a technique for controlling your feelings? I mean, other than powerful drugs, that works when you are in a truly challenging situation, stepping out of your comfort zone and facing your fears? That question is kind of like a setup, I admit, since I know you haven't, because it's impossible to do. It's impossible because there's no way to undo billions of years of evolution that have hardwired your body to respond to challenging situations in a very specific manner, with something called the fight or flight syndrome. The fight or flight syndrome. So let's return to that mammoth to explain this. When a woolly mammoth is charging straight for you, you really only have 2 options, right? Run away or stay your ground and fight. Really, that's about it. Fight or flight. Fortunately, thanks to evolution, your body will provide you with exactly what you need. When you face a threat like this, your body floods with adrenaline, your reflexes become faster, your muscles tense, your focus sharpens, and your heart pumps extra blood to the parts of your body that need it. Right, so this flight or fight response is essential to survival. It prepares you to fight off the threat or to take flight from it, whichever is most likely to save your life. I mean, suppose your primitive ancestor, faced with that woolly mammoth, didn't have that response. You probably wouldn't be here today because your ancestor wouldn't have lasted very long. And picture yourself as that same ancestor setting off from their tribe in search of food. You know, that is risky business. At the slightest hint of a threat, a sudden movement in the bushes, an odd smell in the air, a strange shadow on the horizon, your fight or flight response kicks in. Your heart races, you flood with adrenaline. And that's a good thing. Now you are ready, right? If it turns out to be a false alarm, no harm done. That response will go away. But if it is a threat, like a big animal who wants to eat you, you have a much better chance of surviving. And things haven't changed all that much since those ancestral days. Sure, there's much less risk of being eaten or stomped on by big animals, but we still have to take risks. And each time we leave familiar territory, go outside of our comfort zone, our fight or flight response is triggered. This is completely natural. But of course, in everyday language, you're not going to hear someone talk about their fight or flight response. I mean, Bill isn't going to say, I'm giving a talk in front of 200 people next week and I'm having a fight or flight response. You know, people use the words nervous, stress, or tense, right? And fear, unfortunately, is often demonized in our society as a sign of personal weakness. I mean, when you were a kid and you were feeling frightened, were you ever told something like, "Ah, don't be silly, there's nothing to be afraid of," or "Don't be stupid, there's no such thing as ghosts or monsters," or maybe "Don't be such a baby, grow up, act your age, don't be a sissy, big boys don't cry"? What's the message here? Feeling afraid means being silly, stupid. Fear equals immaturity or weakness. And these messages are reinforced by pop culture as well. You know, Indiana Jones, James Bond, Superman, Wonder Woman, Batman. They have no fear, right? These so-called heroes are fearless. So with all this conditioning going on, it's hardly surprising we grow up with a negative attitude towards fear. It's a shame because, as we'll learn, fear is like a powerful fuel. Once we know how to handle it, we can use it to our advantage. We can harness its energy to help us get where we want to go. If we look at fear as something bad, we waste a lot of precious energy and time trying to avoid it or get rid of it. So what's your mind telling you right now as you hear me saying that? If you're skeptical about it, that's okay. All I ask at this point is that you stay open to the reality that you will not develop true confidence by trying to eliminate fear or anxiety. You'll develop true confidence once you learn how to change your relationship to fear and use it to your advantage. Now, before we get to that point, there's one last thing we need to do in the warm-up area. We need to bust some myths. So join me in the next video for some fun myth busting.